What happens when you make a political statement in the NFL? We're going to talk about that here today and more on Speechless. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Speechless. I'm your host, Phares, 23-year-old conservative activist here at Liberty University, student of law here at Liberty, and this podcast has been going on a while. If you're new to it, everybody, as I always say, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. If I'm interrupting your regularly scheduled program of Sunday football, well, don't worry. In about an hour, the Texans will come on and face. Who are they playing tonight? The Detroit Lions should be a good game. Joe Mixon versus Joe Mixon coming up to the plate with the Texans will be a really interesting game to see. But if I'm interrupting your football time, maybe you're watching the Eagles right now take on the Cowboys. It's a pretty boring game. The Eagles are winning up 34-6. Dallas is 6, especially with Dak Prescott's potentially season-ending injury. You're probably pretty disappointed in the Cowboys this season, but don't worry, we're still going to talk about football here today because Nick Bosa, free my boy Nick. Nick Bosa has been given a fine by the NFL, and a lot of people are saying that this is justice. Well, I would disagree. Let's take a look and actually really dissect this story a little bit further. And as always, guys, comment what you guys think. I want to know what you guys are thinking when it comes to this exact story. But right here, NFL star crashes post-game interview with Trump MAGA hat. Doubles down at pressure. This is from the Daily Wire. Nick Bosa, this is about 2 weeks ago. He's considered to be one of the best defensive players in the league. And if you watch the 49ers today and their win, you would have seen exactly why Nick Bosa is considered to be so good, because today he did a phenomenal job. But San Francisco's 49er defensive end Nick Bosa crashed an NBC Sports post-game interview about 2 weeks ago, enthusiastically pointing to his pro-Trump Make America Great Again hat. In fact, we can actually even watch that video right here.
Points in the first half. What was said during halftime? Hey.
You can see right there, it's a white one with gold lettering, so it becomes a little bit difficult to see on camera. But you can see it says Make America Great Again on it.
All right. Nick Bosa.
Yeah, George Kittle there, who actually had a phenomenal game tonight,
the message
too.
There.
Brock Purdy had a great game tonight, too. All these guys had a great game today.
What was said during halftime?
But so he crashes this in-game interview, a post-game interview. So this is after the game, and it obviously struck some people the wrong way. After Bosa interrupted the post-game interview on the field, the athlete points to his hat and then runs out of frame, as you guys just saw. Further, Bosa reiterated his Trump support when asked about the hat during a post-game press conference. This is that same night, I believe, maybe the next day, at a press conference. Here's what Bosa said.
Would appear to be a political statement.
I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I think it's an important time.
Basically just said it's an important time, right? It's an important time. This is about a week before the election. Weird, though. The NFL takes quite a long time. And I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's not some overarching conspiracy. I don't know. But it takes quite a while for the NFL to actually end up coming back and making any kind of a decision on this. Well, just earlier yesterday, I believe it was, they came back with a decision. But interestingly enough, just a few days ago, Bosa got this question in the locker room.
Think you could be fined for your hat? You have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I haven't got one yet, but if it comes, it comes.
Did you know that going in that could be a possibility?
Yeah. It was well worth it.
Why do you feel compelled to sort of
I don't think my position on speaking about it is going to change. So clearly, the nation spoke, and we got what we got.
Nick, how did you enjoy last night? Did you watch the coverage? What did you think of it last night?
It was fun. It's a good time. Stayed up.
That's good.
Thank you.
Devo's gonna go today. If you guys need Devo.
Okay, so that must have just been a little press conference that he did on Wednesday of last week. Obviously, he had been somebody to watch because he did make a political statement on camera. I know there was a kiddo in the NCAA college football that, like, he got a touchdown. He ripped up his shirt and he was like, "Oh my God, look, I got Make America Great Again shirt, whatever. Cool. Making a statement. Well, soon after this, just a few days ago, it was reported in many news places, including The Hill, which is right here. Also, I hope you guys could have heard that. Let me know if you could not hear anything. Let me know how the audio is doing everywhere. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. But we get here. We can see Nick Bosa was fined by the NFL for crashing an interview wearing a MAGA hat. Okay, so Sanford. So this is what was this? Yesterday or today, even maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. I know it was in the last few days. I'm in law school. Days start blending together. But San Francisco 49ers star defensive end Nick Bosa was fined by the NFL after he crashed a post-game interview wearing a MAGA hat. The league fined Bosa $11,255. I don't know how they came to that number. But obviously he was fined that much. Now, I want to be clear here too, because so 12,000 was a lot. And I see here the video was kind of quiet. That's kind of just how those kinds of videos are when I'm streaming and stuff, especially interviews like that. But if you could hear it, I'm happy about that. Thank you. Nick Bosa, defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers, makes about $34 million a year. So you can see here, he was charged just over 11,000 for this issue. Not that much to him, but still, it's a principle. It's a certain level of principle that he gets fined for something like this. And you have a lot of conservatives that come out and are like, they're automatically so mad. They're mad, like, oh my gosh, he got fined for this. Is just another example of oppression for Republicans and of Trump supporters. But let's really walk this out a little bit, because I want to be clear about something. I don't want to there's a lot of people out there, even me, who have been watching the NFL for quite some time. And we've said, leave the politics out of it. You might remember people like Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick made the less than good, which is an overstatement. The less than good, or an understatement. He's not a very good quarterback. Knelt during the national anthem. Fact of the matter is, though, Colin Kaepernick never got fined, and in fact, actually got an apology from the NFL because they didn't take him seriously enough. And if you're anything like me, you might also remember, if you might be old enough to remember, when the NFL in 2020 came out and said this. George Floyd, who is a drug addict and died of a drug overdose. No sound on that one. Thank you very much for letting me know. It happens sometimes when I'm getting things going. Here we go. But you could hopefully still read the bottom of the screen on that one.
And the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League.
So they encourage peaceful protest. I want to once again play that part.
National Football League admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country.
Now, I want to be clear too, because the thing that when we talk about this, we're not talking about just the blanket statement of Black Lives Matter. He's also saying that he regrets not listening to NFL players about this sooner. About what specifically? Considering the fact that if you've watched my show in the past, this is not exactly what the show is about, but if you watch my show in the past, I've debunked, and I will continue to as it becomes newsworthy, the entire idea that police brutality is this widespread, terrible, terrible threat to Black people in America. It's simply a false narrative to try to push people into a specific voting block. That said, They come out and make a political statement, and they encourage peaceful political protest. This is an insane thing. This is an insane idea, is that you would encourage people to peacefully protest a political position. I don't know if you guys like alliteration, but I like that. You encourage people to peacefully protest a political position that you are aligned with. And that's a huge deal, because as an employer, that is in and of itself discriminatory. And now it has become discriminatory based on race, because you have people out on social media that are coming out and saying, oh, well, they fined Colin Kaepernick. They fined Colin Kaepernick. True. They did fine Colin Kaepernick, but Colin Kaepernick was never fined for making a political statement, was never fined for kneeling during the national anthem. No, Colin Kaepernick was fined for cussing. That is what he was fined for. He was never fined for making a political statement. Don't believe me? While this is Wikipedia technically as a source, we can look. Here we go. On September 17th, Kaepernick was fined by the NFL for using inappropriate language on the field. That's all he was ever fined for. He was never fined for making a political statement. And now I will see comments like the one that I have over here in the chat that says Nick should sue the NFL for violating his First Amendment rights. Yes, the NFL is always trying to strengthen their shield by overstepping their boundaries. Now, I want to be clear here. The First Amendment does not protect does not regulate a private entity. And now this isn't me necessarily arguing against the idea that Nick has free speech or anything like that, but if you read the First Amendment, it says Congress shall make no law that, period. The First Amendment is not something that governs private entities like the NFL. The First Amendment governs the government. The only way in which Nick could sue for a First Amendment violation would be if he was given, or if the government told the NFL he had to be fined for his political speech. That's a very important thing. But the real the real issue that we come to is just the hypocrisy from the NFL. Now, I am of the belief that our sports don't need political talk in them. Now, do I like that Nick Bosa came out and supported something that I support? Sure, at a personal level. But I also am not against the idea of just saying, hey, our athletes, on your own time, if you want to go outside of the field and make political statements, go for it. But when you're on the field for football. Just as much as a lot of employers say, when you're at work, you don't talk about politics. You can go do whatever you want on your own time, but when you're at work, you don't talk about politics. They are there to do a job. And so I'm not mad at Nick for making this statement, because the NFL has come out and said it's perfectly fine to peacefully protest if it's for Black Lives Matter. It's perfectly fine to make a political statement if it's for communism and the false narrative that police brutality against Black people is this widespread daily occurrence, which it's not. My problem is that the NFL is full of hypocrites at the top level. Roger Goodell, down at the administrative level, are hypocrites that really need to be checked on their power, because then we still have players that have end racism on the back of their helmets. What if Nick Bosa were to have something on his helmet that said end communism? Do you think that would go over, or would he be fined? Do you have to follow the prescribed narrative and the prescribed protest that your employer says so? Is that what you have to do in the NFL? You're not allowed to protest what you want. You have to only protest what they say you can protest. I don't know. But the thing that's really cool about this is that it does seem as though people are coming back. People are fighting back against the NFL and saying, no, we support Bosa because NFL, you have been you're being absolutely hypocritical in your designation of what is and isn't allowed. And so here is what fans are doing. In fact, this is reported by Outkick. We can see here, following Nick Bosa's appearance in a Donald Trump MAGA hat on Sunday night, his jerseys have emerged as the best-selling jersey in the NFL shop. This is from October 30th. His jersey sales skyrocket to become most popular in men's jerseys. That's an expensive jersey, too. You have people going out and buying $130 jerseys. I'm sure that he's probably making some level of royalties on this, so good for him. And again, he makes $34 million a year. Taking that hit on the 12,000 isn't that big of a deal. But today, Bosa did an amazing job, period. He had an amazing game. But along with that, he also had an amazing sack. And what does he do after the sack? There you go. Does a little Trump dance with his teammates after an amazing sack. So here's the thing that we're going to talk, because this is not a First Amendment violation. This is an issue of the First Amendment only in the way of which we hold our private entities to a standard. Colin Kaepernick never got fined, or he only got public hate for making a political statement. Nick Bosa gets institutional hate for making a political statement, but public support. Those are inverse scenarios. Low IQ individuals will come out and say, well, Nick Bosa should be fined because Colin Kaepernick got fined and people didn't like Colin Kaepernick, and so this is the same thing. You'd be low IQ if you said that. Because if you really looked at these two situations, the instance of Nick Bosa versus Colin Kaepernick, you would see that the only thing that ties them together is that it's a football player making a political statement. The outcomes of them are in the inverse. Nick Bosa is a football player who made a political statement that got that was treated prejudiciously by the institution and hated on by the institution, fined by the institution, but received significant public support. Now, Colin Kaepernick, on the other hand, received a mixed bag of the public support because you had half the country who came out and said and called you a bigot if you didn't like Colin Kaepernick's kneeling during the national anthem. And then he had another half of the country that went out and burned their Nike shoes because they put Colin Kaepernick in an advertisement. Both of which I think are a little extreme. But the problem lies in the fact that the NFL supported Colin Kaepernick. Were they a little unhappy with him at first because he was causing negative press? Sure. But eventually he got an apology and actually made it so that the NFL players can protest politics, but only if it's for leftism. Only if it's for leftism. And now you might be sitting there and you might be saying, oh, Kev, come on. It's just a football game. It's just political speech during a football game. It's not like the government is making life and death decisions based on who you voted for, right? Right? Wrong. In fact, actually, it was a Daily Wire exclusive just on Friday that FEMA ordered officials to skip houses with Trump signs. This is a real thing, something that really happened. So when they were cleaning up, or not even just cleaning up, that they were helping with the disaster of a hurricane that we had earlier this year on the southern east coast of the United States, a FEMA official ordered relief workers to skip houses with Trump signs. A federal disaster relief official ordered workers to bypass homes of Donald Trump supporters as they surveyed damage caused by Hurricane Milton in Florida, according to internal correspondence obtained by the Daily Wire. A FEMA supervisor told workers in a message to, quote, avoid homes advertising Trump as they canvassed Lake Placid, Florida to identify residents. This is actually, you can see it right here, actually. It says, implement best practices. No one goes anywhere alone. Avoid homes advertising Trump. Practice de-escalation and preventative measures. Avoid homes advertising Trump. Now, this is where it gets dicey. More than dicey. This is where it gets dangerous. The NFL gives a tiered system of what you are allowed to politically speak about. Whatever. Private entity fines the guy $12,000 when he makes $34 million a year, a season. FEMA says if there are Trump supporters, don't help them. In a state, prior to an election, and in a state that is predicted to go overwhelmingly for Trump. It is unclear whether the same guidance was issued elsewhere in the country. The employees were part of a Department of Homeland Security surge capacity force team, meaning they volunteered from other DHS agencies to help understaffed FEMA as it dealt with a second major hurricane in the span of just a few weeks. I know they're short-staffed. I thought we could go help and make a difference. One of the employees said, when we got there, we were told to discriminate against people. It's almost unbelievable to think that somebody in the federal government would think that's okay. The employee said it felt wrong to discriminate against Trump supporters when they were at their, quote, most vulnerable. I volunteered to help disaster victims, not discriminate against them. It didn't matter if people were black, white, Hispanic, for Trump or Harris. Everyone deserves the same amount of help. The guidance came as the Biden admin was criticized over its sluggish response to Hurricane Helene in rural areas across the country. In Roan Mountain, Tennessee, for example, locals told the Daily Wire it took nearly 2 weeks for FEMA to show up. The town is located in Carter County, which voted 81% Trump on Tuesday. Now, here's the thing. I don't really care, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things. I care a little bit about the NFL's hypocritical practice in fining Nick Bosa and not Colin Kaepernick. I think you should be consistent on your rules. Either you're allowed to make political speech, you're allowed to take up political activism on the job, or you're not. But ultimately, small potatoes compared to something like this, where skipping over a house could literally mean murder, essentially. Because you have people who could be, stuck under fallen debris in their house. Oh, but we're going to skip that one because it has a Trump sign in front of it. My gosh. The heartlessness. All for a political point. Now, I don't know what goes on in people's heads. I can make some guesses and I can make hypotheses. One of which that I would not put past is people making these sorts of policies, Biden officials saying, we're not going to help out in these instances because these are areas that usually vote for my political opponent. And we have a contentious election coming up in which my opponent is currently leading in the polls. So we're not going to help the areas because dead voters vote Democrat. Live ones vote Republican. Live ones with brain cells vote Republican. I say that in jest for any of my Democrat friends out there. You can call me brain dead, whatever. I don't care. But would you put it past them? The same people that have no regard for human life as it develops in the womb, would you expect them to have any different for those that they call literal Nazis? I wouldn't. One of two things is true, and it can't be both at the same time. Either they believe that we're literal Nazis, or they believe that we're humans in need of help when help is needed. I would say it's the former. I see a comment here. Illinois state's workers in state trucks were removing Trump signs and throwing them away in their trucks. I don't doubt it. I do believe it. I don't doubt it. Fascinating. But that is what we currently have, is we have a discriminatory system. And nobody ever wants to talk about it. This is something I've been talking about since I was 15, 16, 17, into my early years of college. Is, of course, people are going to discriminate. When you have a majority and of people running institutions, of course, they're going to discriminate based on political ideology, especially when they get brainwashed into believing that it is because you are, it is because you're literally Hitler or something. Well, this lady did end up getting fired, the person that was in charge of this text. From what I understand, it would seem as though she is also going to start, or they're also going to start investigations into FEMA's response. FEMA, of course, I've never once heard anybody, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I would never put it past FEMA to do something like this, because I have never heard anybody say that FEMA has done an amazing job in helping out, and that FEMA was like what has done amazing. I've heard a lot of witness based accounts. So like, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard things such as FEMA does redistribution of services, and things like this even prove it even more. That you'll have like volunteer groups like the Red Cross that will bring big pallets of water, bottled water and food and stuff like that. And they'll bring it to a community, and then FEMA will say, we'll take it from here. They load it onto trucks, and then those trucks are never to be seen again. And that community is left without what was donated to them. So I don't know exactly if that's true. I don't know how true that is. You can back check me on it. You can tell me I'm wrong, whatever. But I've heard that. And I've never heard anybody say, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that FEMA came and helped. They did such an amazing job. I've never heard anybody say that. So if that says anything to you. But we have a discriminatory system. We do. And that definitely, we've multiple institutions that discriminate against those who voted for Trump or who lean conservative in many ways. And I think after this election, we might start seeing some of that change, but I don't think that change is necessarily going to come because people realize that they're wrong. I think they are just going to think, I think that there's this overarching lie that, oh my gosh, Trump is this evil fascist that's going to silence anybody. No. He's not going to silence anybody for having a differing opinion. But if you're going to treat people like a lesser human being because they profess an ideology that you don't agree with, then yeah, you're going to be held accountable for that. Like if you're going to treat somebody like a second-class citizen because of their political ideology or their religion or their values, then yeah, you should probably face consequences for that. Just as much as you should if you're going to treat like a person of a different race or ethnicity as a second-class citizen because of that, then yes, you should probably face a consequence for that. But go buy a Nick Bosa jersey, everybody. I support Nick Bosa, at least in terms of the double standard. Again, I would have no issue. I want to be clear too. I would have no issue with the NFL if they came out and said no political speech, period, and they held to that standard. But they have come out and said you're allowed to have political speech as long as it pushes a false narrative of police brutality at a widespread rate against black people, which is just not true. It does not happen. It is not real. And so if they came out and said, nope, we're taking off the end racism out of the end zones, we're going to take all that crap out. Nick Bosa, you're going to get fined. We're going to do a preemptive fine on anybody who keeps with the Black Lives Matter bullcrap. And they came out and said that, then yes, 100% fully support that. Or come out and say, we're going to take back Nick Bosa's fine. Sorry about that. Everybody's allowed to speak politically. I don't have a problem with private entities regulating political speech if they do it in a non-discriminatory, non-prejudice, consistent way. And I think that's the conservative viewpoint. I do. But coming off of both of those, we also, and transitioning a little bit, we are still seeing we're just about a week after, almost a week after Trump's insanely good win. If we take a look, actually, I can pull it back up. If we take a look at the map, I don't have it open right now. That's what happened. I do a live show. We can take a look at the map right here, and we can see exactly pretty much everything's been finalized. We absolutely had a blowout from Donald Trump. It is much different than the map I predicted. I'm not even going to bring up the map I predicted because I don't want to say how wrong I was. Because Donald Trump pretty much walked away with every single swing state, period. He walked away with it. He absolutely did. Virginia was still close, not as close as I would have liked to have been. I would have liked Donald Trump to have won Virginia, but either way, he walked away with this election. 312 electoral votes. That is a blowout by every sense of the measure. At 74 million votes and 50.5%, he won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College, and Democrats are still, of course, scrambling to see who they can blame for it. And none of them will come out and say Kamala herself was the issue, except for a few. We're going to talk about those, but I do want to make sure that we talk about what is most recently out is Nevada went for Trump. And Arizona also went for Trump. But if we look at their Senate races did go split ticket at 89% reporting and seeming like Carrie Lake is going to lose. And I know there might be some people that watch me on that might like Carrie Lake. I'm going to tell you, we shouldn't have ran Carrie Lake for the Senate this time. Carrie Lake has never been a great candidate. I've seen Carrie Lake speak in person. I've also watched her speak, obviously at like the RNC and such. Carrie Lake is not a good candidate. Carrie Lake is a good candidate if you believe in electing somebody who her entire pitch is, I will do whatever Donald Trump tells me to do. That's her pitch. If you actually listen to everything that she says, it all boils down to, I'm going to do everything that Donald Trump tells me to do. And while I want a Republican who is going to help unite the party and bring us towards a more conservative space, and if that's what Donald Trump is pushing, I want you to align with that. Like, I'm all for that. I also want a supporter or not a supporter, a representative that is going to come out and say, if Donald Trump comes out and say, hey, actually Congress is pushing for this, for us to codify a right to abortion, I'd want a senator that's going to come out and say, no, we should not do that. And Carrie Lake doesn't really seem to be that kind of person. Carrie Lake gives TikTok speeches. And what I mean by that, if you've ever heard me talk about a TikTok speech, I think I've talked about them on this show before. A TikTok speech is a speech where it'll be great on TikTok. She'll do 15, 30 seconds, or maybe at best a minute, where she will say buzzwords regarding a specific topic that will invoke certain emotions in your ear, or in your mind, that make you think, oh yeah, I like what she's saying. But if you really look deeper into it, she's not really saying all that much. She's not actually saying what she'll do or anything like that. She's just invoking, and it really comes from her existence in the media and her experience in the media prior to being a political candidate. She used to be, I believe, on either local Fox, maybe on Fox National sometimes. And she was in the media a lot. And so she has media experience, and she speaks like she's in the media. She doesn't speak to you like she's a representative speaking to a constituent. And so that's really, she's an unlikable candidate. She'll come out and say things like, immigration needs to be regulated. We need a southern border wall. We need these other politicians to get on board with the wall. Donald Trump supports the wall. We should all support the wall. Vote for me. And then she'll go on from there to, I don't know, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Immigration is bad. It is wrong. We need to build the wall. It's these things that it'll make a really good TikTok. But when you're sitting there listening to it, there's no transition. There's no plan. There's no, it's regurgitating everything that everybody else has already said. She's unoriginal. So that's why I think that she's not very good. Nevada did not elect Sam Brown. Very interesting that was called. Jackie Rosen winning that. I guess Jackie Rosen, from what I understand, is more, and I think Josh talked about this on my live stream the other night. Jackie Rosen seems to be more of a moderate, and was able to sell herself as a moderate. I think it's herself as a moderate. I don't know Jackie Rosen all that well, but from what I understand is that she sold herself as a moderate, came off as a moderate. Sam Brown was more Trumpian, and even a little bit more conservative than that, and he was new. There's an incumbent boom that usually comes. Most incumbents get a bit of a boom in the polls. They're like 95% more likely to get reelected. So it would make sense, but we do still hold a strong majority in the Senate at 53. And then also with obviously JD Vance being the Republican can also break any ties that could happen there. So huge wins in the Senate. Great stuff to see. Then we get to the House, and actually also real quick, the Senate, I know that there's more that, that I'd need to cover a little bit, with this, because I don't know the whole story, but I do know, that we currently have a fight for who's going to be the majority leader in the Senate. McConnell came out and announced it pretty soon after it was clear that we would win the Senate. And there are 3 candidates, and 2 of which are basically like people like Mitch McConnell, Liz Cheney type people, establishment Republicans. And the only one that's not is Rick Scott from Florida. And so we got to make sure, call your senator. If you live in a Republican state, call your senator and vote for Rick Scott to be the majority leader of the Senate. Because that's the one that's actually going to help out with the Trump agenda. I recommend you do that. Actually, look up who your senator is, call them and say, I want Rick Scott. You should vote Rick Scott to be the majority leader in the Senate. Now we look here at just 5 seats away from being in the Republican majority in the House. And it's weird that hasn't been called yet. I actually wouldn't be putting it past Democrats for them to be trying to find votes in maybe some of these counties. We look over in like Washington, we got a big Republican county here. I don't know exactly how close that one is, but maybe some of these look pretty close. You 76% in Alaska. I think that's Alaska right there. So we can, if I go back to show all states, maybe we can go look at Alaska's. Alaska gets a singular seat in the House. And it seems pretty close. A little, yeah, it's a difference of about 11,000, 9,000, 10,000, somewhere in the middle there. And Alaska is getting pretty close. We have others that are obviously pretty close here that are not called yet. So it would seem as though, I don't know, maybe actually Marionette Miller Meeks, I forgot about her. I actually helped out with her campaign in 2020. And got her, and that was her first time getting elected. And so that one being close is very fascinating. It would seem as though Republicans will get a slim majority in the House. Let's hope we can keep it. Let's hope we can keep that majority. Then we will basically hold all 3 branches of governments. Conservatives will hold all 3 branches of government, and a lot can happen with 3 branches of government if President Trump comes in and truly is the dictator on day one, if he so chooses to be. That he said he was going to. But with all these comes people and Democrats scrambling to answer the question, what happened? And I've been covering this already, but now we get into the weekend shows. And so Democrats are constantly asking themselves what happened. And there's actually one person who actually seemed to start to get it. Bill Maher seemed to start to understand it in his opening monologue. And one thing I do have to say, as I tease this, I'm going to talk about Bill Maher, SNL, and some others. I have to take this off. I know some people might be watching on Instagram right now. I know you might be watching on Instagram. You might be watching on Facebook. Instagram and Facebook are notorious for hating on me when it comes to any type of content copyright violation. And so to ensure that I don't get violated on copyright, go check me out on YouTube, Speechless with Kev on YouTube. Go check out Speechless with Kev on YouTube or Rumble. In the event that copyright, I'm going to take myself off Instagram right now and Facebook and end those live streams. So go check out on YouTube, Speechless with Kev, like, subscribe, comment, share, or go to Rumble as well. Check out any of those where they're a lot less strict on copyright in live streams. So go check those out, guys. Right now, go check me out on YouTube, Speechless with Kev. Thank you very much on Facebook and YouTube or Instagram. I'm gonna remove Facebook now, and that live stream. I don't want to delete it. Remove that. There we go. Okay, so I should be off Facebook now. Should be off Instagram. Now we will get into the rest of the stories. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Anybody else who is still watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. But we can go here and watch Bill Maher. This is Bill Maher just last night, and he seems to actually kind of get it a little bit. Bill Maher seems to get it a little bit. So let's take a look and listen at his take on some of the election fallout.
I hear about both tonight on the panel and throughout the whole show, the winners, the losers. My message to the losers, look in the mirror. No? Well, maybe you should. Sorry. Well, that's my feeling. Losers look in the mirror, okay? You know, yeah. I mean, for months, Democrats have been saying, how is this even close? And they're right, it wasn't. They could not conceive of a second Trump term, but they should have. When does America ever turn down second? I mean, come on. Look, this is just the facts. This is just the facts. Trump won all the swings, all 7. I mean, he ran the table. Trump won so big. Today he called the Secretary of State in Georgia and he asked him to lose him 11,000.
That's actually kind of funny.
But, you know, he has an amazing coalition. He kept the old crowd that likes him. He got a lot of new voters. He got a lot of people who say they just want to see what he'll do. I call this the get the cat high vote.
That's actually pretty funny.
But, I mean, he did better, like, in every demographic. The exit poll said he grabbed 52% of white women. He also got their votes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're going to keep doing jokes here, okay? Right? Both sides, right to the end. And you know what? I think that will be okay with them. We'll test that, but I think it will. But, you know, the liberal media, always more offended than the victim, been saying it for years. They were like, women are so upset about Donald Trump. Women are a little stronger than you think. Women were like, whatever, I don't have to fuck them. I just want bacon. But, I mean, women, that had to hurt for Kamala. I mean, the whole thing must have been very painful. And they say she saw the writing on the wall. But around 10 o'clock at night on election night, she called McDonald's to see if she could get her old job.
Oh man, that was good. That was good. There's more on that one, but he kind of, I mean, he comes at it with, I think, a pretty good analysis. Is he starts off saying, "Look in the mirror, Kamala, look in the mirror," and this is the rational way to approach it. The rational way to approach it is to say, okay, we obviously were missing something here. Let's reflect on exactly what we did wrong, while others still continue to double down and say, oh my gosh, it's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else's fault. People didn't understand. And in fact, here's one of those. A CNN panel discussion this past week perfectly exemplified the left's remaining blind spot, one of which being a huge one on the transgender issue. And so there was actually a meltdown. I would say there's a CNN panel meltdown over the trans issue that shows the left doesn't seem to be really understanding what the voters care about, what the voters want, and what the voters think. Now, before we get into this, and as I get it up on screen here, because I'm really, part of me is stalling so I can get it up on screen, is the left isn't listening to what you care about. Not just you, but the average person. The moderate opinion is we shouldn't let kids change their gender, and we shouldn't let men in women's sports. That's the moderate opinion. Then you get to the more extreme opinions, which you have some that say, let kids do whatever they want at all times because they apparently know what's best for them as in terms of what they should and shouldn't cut off their own bodies. And then you get to what I would consider the most logical and the most rational opinion, but what some would call an extreme opinion. We shouldn't let anybody cut off part of their body just because they want to, and they're delusional and think that they're something that they're not. But again, the moderate opinion is leave kids out of it and leave men out of women's sports. But CNN just really doesn't know how to talk to normal people, nor do Democrats. So take a look and listen at the meltdown on the CNN panel over the trans issue.
I think there are a lot of families out there who don't believe boys should play girls' sports.
They're not boys. I'm not going to listen to transphobia at this table. I am not going to listen to you call a trans girl a boy.
Are you going to allow me to finish my explanation?
When you use a word that's a slur, I'm going to interrupt. That's not how it is. They're not boys. They're not boys. They're not playing girls softball. I'm not going to sit there and listen to that.
Let's reset for a second because look, this is a really heated issue, right? And Sharmichael, I know you. I know that you understand that people have different views on this. I think out of respect for Jay, like, let's try to talk about this in a way that is respectful.
Okay, so let me rephrase this since I'm being targeted here.
I don't think to be clear, you are not being
but
targeted.
I am, but it's okay.
I'm specifically saying that I know that you are not intending to be transphobic.
He should know that I'm not. He wants to sit here and bloviate.
But I want you to using a phrase
I want to give
you
you an
know.
opportunity.
So the way regular people interpret it,
that's not regular people. That's not regular people. There's no consensus that these are actually boys. This whole thing about trans girls is a canard. We're talking about a tiny, tiny sliver of the population.
That may be the
and we're
case,
using
but
that
my point in
to
terms
take
of
away
its
healthcare from
effectiveness.
thousands of people.
Hold on, just get to your point.
My point in terms of its effectiveness. Regular people with children look at these things and they say, you know what? This is a bit too far. I do not agree with this. I don't like this. I think Democrats are going way too much to the left on social issues. They're uncomfortable with it. A lot of people believe that. A lot of families believe that. You may disagree with that reality, but that's why Republicans kept running those ads over and over and over again, because they saw the metrics suggested that they were working
in those ads over and over again and using rhetoric like you just used, saying this is boys playing girls sports. First of all, we're talking we're talking about trans girls being allowed to play with the people who are in their gender. And if you don't believe, you don't have to listen to me, listen to the American Medical Association.
This dude's a predator. This dude's like definitely a predator.
The American Psychological Association.
The American Medical
Association.
This is not about the
Guys,
This is about trying.
Okay. I think so. We watch this and we see these two guys, and you literally have, this is like a perfect this exemplifies exactly what is going on with the Democrat Party. This is a perfect example. This is honestly the perfect example of what went wrong in the election. Is you have one dude over here. There's my mouse. You can see it. You have this dude over here who is coming out and saying, people don't like, this is what you should care about. This is the issue that you are putting so much weight on. People look at it differently. And then before he can even get to the heart of the issue, and when he keeps trying to say, this is the issue, listen to me, I'm begging you, please listen to me. He's begging you. The predator over here, the child predator, which I don't actually know. I say that in jest, jokingly, for legal reasons. I'll be clear. I'm joking. I don't actually know that. He just sounds, acts, and looks like one. And if it quacks like a duck and squawks like a duck, it's probably a duck. But anywho, child predator over here is probably, it comes out and is saying, you're calling the boys. You can't do that. They're trans women, and trans women are actually women. And he doesn't even listen. He doesn't take a chance to even listen because he can't get past the way that he said something. And this is not a new issue. In 2021, I was elected to our student government association at Illinois State University, and I referred to illegal aliens as illegal aliens. That is a legal term. It references people who are in the United States illegally, that are undocumented, immigrants, but they are illegal aliens. It is a perfectly fine way. It is a perfectly legally and correct way to describe people that are illegal aliens. But I couldn't even talk about how our students that we had illegal aliens that were there under DACA and certain protective rights to be students there. I was trying to ask questions regarding how they were allowed to be there, how they were allowed scholarship, all these different things. And I wasn't even allowed to ask the questions with sincerity because they could not get over the fact that I was using the term illegal alien. They don't want to listen. They don't care about listening. And this just goes even further into their plot to try to push people into submission, this submissive ideology where I'm going to make you submit so far as to, I'm not even going to allow you to function in society unless you use my prescribed language. What does this sound like? Maybe the NFL only allowing people to protest if you utilize their prescribed ideology, if you use their prescribed language, if you use their prescribed policy point. This is emblematic of why the left is losing. And we've been saying it I've been saying it for a long time. A lot of people on the right have been saying it for a long time. This is what's happening is you have people that are saying no more. No more. You had people that were out at one point, they were saying things like, you had people that were like, okay, like I don't really agree with the trans stuff, but like I'm a pretty amicable person. And so in public and polite society, I will, if he wants to be called she, I'll say it just so like I don't have to cause a bigger problem and like whatever. You have people that were willing to, and I think that's a huge deal. I think that's people that were willing to sacrifice basic human biology in language and the conveyance of that through language to live in a polite society. But eventually then you came to a point where it's like, okay, not only do you have to do that, you also have to allow your kid to identify as whatever they want to be. And if that's a cat, we'll get them a litter box at school and we'll let them take a nap and meow at the teacher in response to what's 2 + 2. Meow. And then people are like, maybe I don't want that. And maybe I also don't want my kid to go to school with a cat. Or a kid that thinks they're a cat. Like, maybe I don't want that. And so then they started to fight back. But then you have guys like this. Like, if Harry Potter wanted to touch children like John Wayne Gacy, that will come out and be like, no, it's a boy. It's not a boy. It's a trans girl. It's a little trans girl. And they're so brave. They're so brave. And won't actually listen to what the average person thinks. And then you have people that just radically overreact. And this one, I don't think should come as a surprise to anybody, but to me is still wildly hilarious. And so this is the 3-letter agency that should go back to the bar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Take a look and listen to what she had to say to Donald Trump winning. And spoiler alert, it's hilarious. Take a look and listen.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. We cannot give up.
So far, she really hasn't said anything either. Pretty much every political period will have consequences for the rest of our lives. Given how short our lives actually are, at best, like 90 to 100 years, pretty much a significant portion of political decisions will have reverberating effects that will outlive you, likely, at any point in time. So she is not really saying anything there. Going into the Joe Biden era had long-lasting effects. Going to the Obama era, long-lasting effects. George Bush, George W., all of them. All had long-lasting, lifelong effects. So she hasn't said anything so far. Then she said, we will fight. Okay, cool. I didn't think you were going to. I thought this was the moment that you were going to go belly up.
We now find ourselves in a time in history that has precedent, and we find ourselves, I believe, in a time where there are, let's say, peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism.
Oh,
and
fascism. This is fascism. What an idiot.
Authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies.
He's just he's never said that. It's a lie. I don't even know where she gets that from. He's never said, if you can find hard evidence where he says, I am going to send the United States military to imprison my political opponents. Find where he says that. Find where he says that. I'd love to hear it. Find where he says that. Email it to me. Send it to me. I will Venmo you $10 if he says specifically that in context. Email me, speechlesskp@gmail.com, or email me with any question, comment, concern, anything like that. I'll put that up there for a little bit longer while we let this just absolute genius, strong woman keep talking.
Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents. This is the world that we very realistically may be entering.
Oh my gosh. This is the world we may very well realistically be entering. What a load of crap. And fear-mongering too. Like, that's a dangerous level of fear-mongering, because you have people out there that genuinely believe that will happen. You have people that will genuinely believe that will happen. Like SNL. I'm gonna react a little bit to some of SNL from last night, but they're even joke about they're a funny one to watch, because they've obviously been ardently anti-Trump to a point that which it exits any level of sanity, and ignores truth, and thus has made them like the worst comedy. What you started out as a very good comedy show has now become absolutely terrible. Saturday Night Live. We're going to talk about that because they had a really, really high spot in their show last night and a really, really low spot. And so we'll talk about that. But I'm going to do a brief intermission on that to talk about something I think is really, really funny, is how well Joe Biden is making out from all of this. Like, Joe Biden, I'll bring up a picture. We got Joe Biden here. Yeah, we got Joe Biden up there. Joe Biden is the luckiest man in politics. Aside from Nancy Pelosi, nobody is really pointing fingers at Joe Biden right now. Nancy Pelosi is trying to point fingers and be like, oh, we should have had an open primary. Joe should have gotten out sooner, blah, 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 which just validates all the news. Remember when we were being lied to pretty constantly about how, oh my gosh, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, there's a rift in the Democrat Party, and then Nancy would come out, no, Joe should stay in. Joe should stay in. I never said that he should leave. And there was all that news. I was talking about it. I talked about it on my show a lot. If you've been following me, like, subscribe, comment, share. Don't forget to do all those things. Definitely share. Make sure other people subscribe. Ring that notification bell. Hit it to all so you don't miss a single one of my live streams. But anyways, Joe is making out like a bandit in all this, because Nancy Pelosi's coming out and saying, she's the only one that's come out and said, like, oh, maybe it could be Joe Biden's fault that he didn't drop out sooner. But remember at the DNC, everybody was cheering on Joe. Thank you, Joe. His legacy is pretty solid. Like, this man was in politics and government for decades, like half a century, practically 40 plus years. And his legacy was very close to being a loss to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And so he lost to Donald Trump would have been terrible, and he should have gotten out sooner, and he's so terrible. And that's what it was very close to being. But instead, he leaves politics a hero. A hero. He beat Donald Trump when it was necessary during COVID. He led us out of the battle of COVID. And then he stepped down when he knew he needed to. What a hero. What a true statesman. Of course, that's not how I see it, and that's how nobody who has been consistently following actually sees it, but that's likely how some of the history books will write it. His legacy turns out to be the man who stepped down when he was asked, and when he knew it was best for him to do so. Now, the person that he left it to is now the whipping girl. But she is even trying to pawn it off on people like Tim Walz, or that it's actually the American people, blah, blah, blah. But Joe is made out like a bandit in all of this. But some people are starting to notice this. And they can't let the straight white man take the credit. And so Joe, who has thus far made it out like a bandit, now has a Kamala mouthpiece saying that he should resign and let Kamala be president, which is a joke that both Trump supporters and lefties have been making for quite a while. This is how we're going to get the first black woman president. This is how we're going to get the first woman president. It's actually just going to be Joe is going to step down, and it's going to be Kamala. Well, Jamal Simmons, a former communications director for VP Harris, provoked an immediate reaction when he suggested on live television that Joe Biden should consider stepping aside and allowing Harris to finish the term. This is that interaction right here. Take a look and listen.
Is looking for. That is my question. I'll start with you.
Joe Biden has been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa.
He would absolve her from being able to from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat. And it would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats
Okay, this
operate.
has now jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show.
Jamal's out here right now.
Congratulations.
Season of House of Cards.
I thought you were going to say, what about the Supreme Court? That's also out there.
Well, the Supreme Court might happen. I don't know if it will, but I think this is something that's
He is looking.
Like even everybody on the panel was like, oh, okay, like this man, Jamal, whatever, immediately lost all credibility. He sounds like an absolute dumbass with even suggesting such a thing. Even suggesting such a thing. You sound like an idiot. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe that is what will happen. I mean, stranger things have happened. Truly. Truly. What do you guys think about it? Don't forget to let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that fun stuff. I appreciate it. Now, I want to talk about something that I think was pretty fascinating. Is last night we had, you know how we had AOC just briefly a moment ago. She gave her resounding speech about, oh my gosh, this is a fascist dictator. He's going to come after me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I don't know like where people actually get this. Like, where do people get that Donald Trump is going to, I know where they get it. It's the lamestream media and Democrat politicians that have come out and constantly said Donald Trump is a fascist, and they tote these lies. He's going to be a dictator. He's literally Hitler. He's going to arrest his political opponents, which is ironic because I'm pretty sure that's basically what they did to him, right? I don't know. Whatever. Rules for radicals, Saul Alinsky. But here we get the comedy show. Once again, the comedy show, who actually came out and they made a little skit, which we'll see. Will Kevin laugh at the SNL skit about, let's count. We can count. I'll bring a banner up on screen and we'll count the amount of times that I laugh. Kevin laugh counter. And of course, we're starting at 0 here. Add the banner. Kevin laugh counter 0. We'll count the amount of times I laugh at this skit and we'll check it at the end. Here's this.
On Tuesday, Americans went to the polls and elected Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States.
To many people, including many people watching this show right now, the results were shocking and even horrifying.
Donald Trump, who tried to forcibly overturn the results of the last election, was returned to office by an overwhelming majority.
This is the same Donald Trump who openly called for vengeance against his political enemies.
Now, thanks to the Supreme Court, there are no guardrails.
Nothing to protect the people who are brave enough to speak out against him.
And that is why we at SNL would like to say to Donald Trump, we have been with you all along.
We have never wavered in our support of you, even when others doubted you.
Every single person on this stage believed in you.
I will say the closest I've come to laughing so far is looking at that. Like, who does their hair like that? And what is she wearing? She looks like she's like a clown. Like that's like big old buttons on there. It's closest I've come to laughing.
Every single person on this stage voted for you.
Because we see ourselves in you. We look at you and think, that's me.
That's the man I want my future children to look up to.
And Mr. Trump, Your Honor, we know that you say things that are controversial sometimes, but really you're just speaking the truth. And I hate how the lamestream media, Michael Che, tries to spin it to make you look foolish.
So if you're keeping some sort of list of your enemies.
Not laugh worthy, but the Michael Che thing, I will admit, was a little funny. Like, we'll change this. We'll give, just because I'll give them a little bit of credit on this. Kevin laugh counter is now at 0.5. Half a laugh. Half a laugh. I thought that was kind of funny. And he said lamestream media, which I always say, the lamestream media, they're coming after you. They brainwash you. They brainwash me. They tried to brainwash all of us into hating Donald Trump, the greatest president of all time, some might say. But half a laugh for the Michael Che thing. That was half of a laugh funny.
Then
we should not be on that list.
And it's C-H-E, Che.
And if we find out someone here voted for Kamala, we will rat them out so fast.
Like our 3 disgusting new cast members.
So real quick, left to right, that's Jane Whitline, Ashley Padilla, and Emil Joaquim. You can find their home addresses online. Hail Trump.
But the rest of us, Hail Trump, voted for you at least once.
I voted for you 50 times in Pennsylvania.
92% of Black women voted for Kamala, but I was one of the proud 8%. For me, it's Brother Donald X Trump all the way.
And we're so excited to debut our new impression, Hot Jacked Trump.
That's right. That's right. It's me, Hot Jack Trump. They finally got the body right. But from now on, we're going to do very flattering portrayal of Trump because he's frankly my hero. And he's going to make an incredible president and eventually king. We love you, buddy.
This is like an adult man who's doing this right now. Like, there's no shame. Bring back bullying.
In summary, all of us at SNL are so excited for Trump 2.0, which is also what I blew on a breathalyzer Wednesday morning.
We can't wait to see what you do with the country this time. I keep waiting.
A 2.0 would be a lethal level. 0.08 is above the legal limit. Expert witness testimony has shown that between 0.18 and 0.21, you'd be showing significant signs of visible drunkenness, such that you would be stumbling, falling over, slurring your words, not coherent, essentially. So a 2.0, if you were telling the truth, which is obviously, you'd be dead. Like that is a lethal amount of alcohol to have in your system. You couldn't blow a 2.0.
Up in the middle of the night screaming,
yeah.
With joy, of course.
My only regret is that we didn't get to do another January 6th because I was ready.
Me too.
Why is Colin Jost the only one that's even like close to funny? Like that was good. That was good coming out in the big old hat and everything. Like that was visually funny. I'll include that in the 0.5 because it's just all been Colin Jost.
And worst case scenario, meaning scenario, if our planet falls apart, we can all go to Mars with the other man that we love and trust, Elon Musk.
All right. All right. Check it out, Doc Mega. Yeah, but seriously, I run the country now. And America's gonna be like one of my rockets, you know, they're super cool and super fun. But there's a slight chance it could blow up and everybody dies. Anyway, I'm Doc Mega. See you in the White House. USA!
And to all young men who helped elect Trump and Elon, we know you felt unseen these past 4 years.
So we say to you, young men, there's no need to feel down.
Young men, pick yourself off the ground.
Young men.
Oh, they're doing
time
like
to
the
put on your
YMCA.
crown.
I get it. Man, that was the cold open. That was the cold open. That's so sad. That was the cold open. I haven't watched SNL in a while, but I remember I saw somebody earlier. They said SNL hasn't been good since like the 70s and 80s. I've seen some clips of like 70s and 80s SNL, and it's of course good. I like 70s and 80s SNL, but I even thought like Andy Samberg generation, Bill Hader generation, like your early 2000s into the early 2010s. Basically, it started dropping off, I'd say, in around 2010, 2011, 2012 ish. But once Trump became the target of everything, that's when it got like, it's just not funny anymore. It's just boring. But there's always been some level of things. So we could close that out by saying the Kevin laugh counter, 0.5 point for Colin Jost having decent comedic timing in there. But wow, in 5 minutes of SNL and half a laugh. Well, I will say that there are instances in which SNL does do a good job of picking people that can come on and let them be funny. An example of that would be Bill Burr. And so in a drastic difference between that, what you're seeing right there, and something that is actually kind of funny. I haven't seen all of it yet, but I've seen clips of it. And I think it's actually pretty funny and makes fun of both sides in a good way. We're going to react now to Bill Burr's opening monologue that I think is a lot more that is a lot more actually like funny and self-aware too. Like that's the other thing is it doesn't act upon just a blatant lies from the media. So we'll reset the Kevin laugh counter. I see somebody, Demon Girl, thank you for tuning in. Also wants a Kevin laugh counter. And before we get to this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends. As I always say, definitely subscribe. But let's get on to the reaction to Bill Burr's opening monologue last night.
Thank you very much. How are you? How's it going?
I like Bill Burr.
Nice
He's
to
a
be here
good
on
comedian.
Such a fun week. I know. I don't want to hear it. I don't watch
There's a giggle.
politics. So we're going to keep it light. All right? Here we go. All right. Well, I just got over the flu, which is fantastic. You know what I mean? Had it last month. Whenever you have the flu, like or like COVID, you know, you always lay in bed and you try to like figure out who gave it to you. You know, just going through this Rolodex of people that coughed on you, sniffled near you, walked by an Asian or something. You try to fight it. You like, they say on the internet, that's where all the disease comes from. I know who gave it to me. I sat next to a shoeless cowboy
You can hear it so far too. When he said the Asian joke, you could hear them in the audience. They're like, they kind of wanted to laugh, but they're like, "Ooh, am I allowed to laugh at that? This is SNL. It's not supposed to be actually funny. Am I allowed to laugh at that?"
On an airplane. Guy had no socks or shoes on the whole flight. The whole flight, I'm sitting there looking at his dirty Jesus feet. And all I'm thinking is the next pandemic is growing in the bottom of his feet. And all I'm going to be is the next, patient number 2, whatever the next disease is, So I'll tell you what kills me is I looked at the guy and all I'm thinking is, you know what? God made that guy. And he keeps making that guy. Like one mouth-breathing moron after another. Yet we still go to church on Sunday, and what do? We praise him. When is the constructive criticism coming? Like, dude, when's the last time you made a Gandhi? Somebody empathetic, So my problem is I didn't get the flu shot, I'm old school. I kind of still do the vaccine thing, I know some people like it, some people don't, I don't know. It's a weird thing, though. If you get it, what do? You side with the evil pharmaceutical companies. If you don't, then you're aligned with people who don't wear shoes on an airplane. All right, let's get to what you all want to talk about. All right, ladies, you're 0-2 against this guy. 0-2. All right, but you learn more from your losses than your wins. So let's get into the game tape. All right, ladies, enough with the pantsuit. Okay, it's not working. Stop trying to have respect for yourselves. You don't win the office. Like on policy, you got to whore it up a little. I'm not saying go full Hooters, but find the happy medium between Applebee's and your dad didn't stick around. All right? You all know how to get a free drink. Okay? And I know a lot of ugly women, feminists, don't want to hear this message. But just tease them a little bit.
That was funny. I know a lot of ugly women, feminists. That was a good one. That was a good one. Objectively, that was a good one.
Make a farmer feel like he's got a shot. Swing a state over a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I am so psyched that this stupid election is finally over. It took forever.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah. Everybody knew who they were voting for 4 years ago. And then they just drag you through a year and a half of this stuff. Like, who was sitting there watching the debate, still not decided? Two of the most polar opposite people ever. It's like, all right, let's see. What does the orange bigot have to say? How about the real estate agent that speaks through her nose? Oh, there's a point. This is so difficult. It's like they overlap. I just can't make up my mind. I'll be honest with you. I can't believe Trump didn't win this thing 4 months ago. I know that's weird for younger people to hear, but when I was a kid, if you were running for president and you got shot and you didn't die, that was the end of the election. There was nothing you could say, right? Everybody would just be like, this guy's the man. He is the king. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think the number one reason Trump survived is all those herky-jerky movements that he does. You just can't nail the guy down. I gotta be honest, the guy is a lunatic. He literally got shot and immediately jumped back up and started yelling in the direction the bullets were coming from, unarmed. That's not a sane human being. I would have been on the ground crying in the fetal position, all right, give me the truck. I don't want this job anymore. Just tell her she won. Tell her she won. But Trump's got all those weird, coming out. I think the guy couldn't get a bead on him, And right as he pulled the trigger, Trump was just and Sleepy Joe, and the bullet went by his head. My favorite part of the campaign, though, was when Trump went to McDonald's. Wasn't that amazing? That's the only time I've ever seen that guy truly happy. He was glowing. When he got behind the counter, it was like he was behind stage at like Springsteen or something. He's like, oh my God, this is like where they make the French fries. And he was sticking a couple of extra in one. He goes, hey, whoever gets this one's going to be excited. It's like, oh my God, was that empathy of the people, Donald? It's like when the Grinch came down the hill, bringing the toys back.
Okay, I know that maybe I'm being a little generous. I do think that Bill Burr is pretty funny. Maybe I'm being biased because I do like him, but I think that he's actually hitting on something here. And I don't think it's particularly funny, but I don't think it's bad. In what he's talking about, the McDonald's thing this is why the McDonald's and the garbage truck and a lot of like the political stunts that he started doing were so important. Because it actually saw him as like a human being, because the left had done such a good job of dehumanizing Trump for so long that people saw the McDonald's thing and they did see him happy, and they've known him, and he's been framed, and he has framed himself as a generally angry person, rightfully so, in the way that he's been treated. But the McDonald's thing made it show that not only can he face the criticism and keep fighting, he can also face the criticism with a smile. And I think that's what Bill Burr is hitting on a lot here. And I know that there's some people, I think you're being a little harsh, hippie. 0 in the laugh meter. I think you're being a little harsh. Not gonna lie. But I think he's made a few one-liners and stuff here and there that I think are good. But I think that this is actually a really good thing that people need to understand. This is why the McDonald's thing worked so well, is because it even stuck with Bill Burr. Bill Burr, who's also known to being a pretty angry comedian, comes out and he says, he goes, wow, was that empathy? Which like is funny, not necessarily laugh funny, ha funny. It's funny in terms of he's got a point. Trump had been framed so much as this man who lacks empathy, as this evil, like angry, crotchety, begrudging old man. And he did a lot of things in this election. One of the smartest decisions in this election came down to if he could show himself as a human. That's why he had his granddaughter speak at things other than just his sons. He had his granddaughter speak at things. He talked a lot more about Barron and being the father of an 18-year-old boy. The man who had a silver spoon for him his entire life came off as a relatable figure because of a lot of things like the McDonald's thing.
And his heart got a little bigger. All right, we'll end on something nice here. I fell asleep the other night. You ever fall asleep like watching TV? You like leave it on, and you wake up at 3 a.m. and whatever you're watching makes you feel like you're still dreaming. Yeah, I woke up at 3 a.m. I swear to God, Shaquille O'Neal was selling me printer ink. Standing at 7 feet tall. Hi, I'm Shaquille O'Neal. Are you paying too much money for your printer ink? Every day, people come up to me and they say, I'm paying too much money for my printer. He's holding a printer. It's like the size of a cell phone. People come up to me, I'm paying too much money. And I'm like, well, I have the solution. Dude, is there no end to that guy's credibility? I thought when he was selling Buicks, that was the end of it. It's laying in that little car, the mid-sized Buick Century. This is the most comfortable car I have ever been in. He's got one foot out one window, the other foot out the other. If I was regular size, this is the car I would buy. It blows my mind. Doesn't he even have like $1 billion at this point? It's like, why are you still working? Take a weekend off, you 9-foot whore. Give somebody else a chance. All right, that's it. We got a great show. Stick around.
Okay, the 9-foot whore thing got me. I was like, the whole time I was like, okay. But five laughs for Bill Burr. That's nearing 1 a minute. Congratulations. It's less than 1 a minute, about 0.8 per minute, 0.8 laughs per minute. But, and I see I'm getting some hate for this in the comments. I'm not going to come out and say like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing SNL has ever put on. No, it's not. But compare it to the other clip that I played right before this. That was much more funny and entertaining. He went places that the SNL cast members never would have. He took pokes at both sides in a, for the most part, classy way. It wasn't Trump is a Nazi. And I thought he did a pretty good job. And I see here, I'm used to real comedians like John Winters, Aykroyd, Belushi, Jerry Lewis. I think I think that there are still some really good comedians out there. I think that Shane Gillis is a phenomenal comedian. I think he does a really good job. I think that Joe Rogan, his stand-up has been, I think Joe Rogan has been very, very good. I think that there's, I really like stand-up comedy. Ron Winters, I think Ron White, not Winters. I got it mixed up. Ron White, I think is really funny. He's an older comedian. I think Ron White is really, really funny. He's been around for quite a while. And I think he's very good. Anthony Jeselnik, I think has an interesting kind of dark sense of humor that I think is funny. Daniel Tosh was very good for quite a long time. I'm kind of fallen off with him recently. But I think that maybe there's a sense of hope for SNL with some things like what Bill Burr did here. I mean, Bill Burr said jokes that no one else on SNL, that no one else would have really said. And so maybe it's a shining glimmer of hope. There's a reason SNL kicked off Shane Gillis, and it wasn't because he said something bigoted. It was because he was actually funny. And he didn't say anything bigoted. It's just because he's actually funny. So that's what I have to say about that. I thought it was pretty good though. I like watching Bill Burr. I think Bill Burr has a lot of really good stand-up comedy. I was actually interested. I thought he was going to maybe make a joke because he started off with the 0-2, ladies, you're 0-2 against Trump. I really thought he was going to be like Donald Trump beats more women than NFL players or something like that. I thought that would have been real funny. But I guess not. I guess I expected too much. We'll see though. We'll see how SNL does. We'll see if they change. We'll see if they get better. That's what I got for the show tonight, guys. I am really excited to watch some of this Texans game. I actually just saw Joe Mixon just got a touchdown. I have a TV over there that I have it up on. And so I like watching me, despite the fact that I think the NFL is run by a lot of hypocrites. And I think that I have clear disdain for some of the players that embrace and embolden crap political ideologies. It is very, very, or they date mid people, like certain individual that is currently dating Taylor Swift. But there are some good ones out there and some interesting people to watch. And the game itself will always be an American tradition. And so I'm still watching football. And if you're going to ask me what team I'm rooting for, don't, because I'm always unhappy with my team. So I don't know. Dallas should draft the Cowgirls to play. Well, okay. Have a good night, everybody. God bless you. God bless America. Stay tuned and be ready because there will be more Speechless sometime later this week. And I'm Phares. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Good night.